Some days I do feel 33, other days I feel 16. Other days I feel like I'm 45. So I mean, quite honestly, it's just I've lived a lot of life in these 5 months that these days, yep, I'm very much feeling my age. I think I would describe the Gypsy-Rose that went into prison as someone who honestly was very lost and confused of who she was and who she's going to be. And I think that the Gypsy that walked out of prison is finally coming to her own and very accepting of who she is now and hopeful for the future. 5 months later, this Gypsy is a little bit more wise, has a little bit more experience under her belt, and is still very hopeful for the future, regardless. A day in the life consists of me and my stepmom binge watching chick flick movies, me hanging out with the dogs in the backyard. And when my dad's home, my dad and I usually do things around the house. He usually makes me help him on the boat with boat repairs. So like, it's very simple, but I like it. The thing I love about my parents is that they do give me a sense of independence without overstepping, and I think that they manage it really well. So moving back home, it was both a sigh of relief because I felt like, okay, I don't have to feel alone. I do have this support outside of my marriage to lean on. And so it was really actually a big relief for me going back home. I didn't think it would be at first, but it really was.
Any plans?
Lots of them.
Can we get a picture with you?
Everybody's just gone gypsy crazy. I have death threats in my messages. Am I at risk for dangerous people? The hardest lesson that I've had to learn is that, not everybody is gonna accept you and love you for who you are. Some people are going to believe what they want to believe, and so you have to know your own truth and live in your truth. Social media is definitely a dance for me. There'll be days that I want to bring it closer. There'll be days that I want to push it very far back. So it's a learning curve for me. So figuring out what my point of comfortability is key in being on social media. At first, I wanted to read all the comments. And then I realized that I can't do that. There is a lot of negative comments out there, and I cannot change everyone's minds. I'll feel like I want to, but their mind is already made up, and nothing I say is going to change that. So I've ultimately turned off my comments and no longer read them.
Not every day is a fairy tale in life.
I don't want to lose my wife. I love her.
And I just don't know if I'm going to be happy in this marriage. Eventually, I'm going to want a divorce. Ryan and I were busy filming for these 4 months, and it put a lot of stress. But the attention that social media and the public eye put on our marriage was a stress in itself. So to say that it didn't play any part would be a lie. Of course, any stress, added stress is difficult. It was not the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was added stress. I think that there is a sense of freedom of following your heart, following what you feel like is right for you. And in my marriage, I felt like a part of me was lost in it. And so I feel like I found that missing piece of myself that I always felt was, lost. And now reclaiming that back, I definitely feel a sense of belonging in that space. I did love Ryan. Ryan and I spent 3 years of a relationship together. It was just a different love than I have for Ken. The thing about Ken and I is we have a long history, and our history all starts with a friendship, and then there is just a soul connection that's there, that when you meet that person, no matter how much time has passed, no matter what relationships outside of that bond is made, you keep coming back to that same person because there's just something that is so special, and that's how it is with he and I. He's very energetic. He is an extrovert, so I am an extrovert when it comes to people that I'm comfortable around, and an introvert around strangers. So put the two of us together, and the best way that I can describe this is I'm like a free pony running through the fields, and he is my other free pony running through the fields with me. So we're just very two free-spirited people. As a partner, whenever it comes to hard days like an anniversary, my mother's birthday comes up, or something to that nature where it is a very extreme hard day for me, I'll call him and we will say a prayer for her together. And he honestly, he calms that part of me that might feel like I don't know what to feel in the moment. And so he allows me to express those deeper emotions by just being there for me and being a listening ear for me and not judging me based on what I'm feeling in that moment.
We're being followed.
I'm getting a huge culture shock. I was always afraid that the cameras were gonna run him off because, he's just a guy, he's not from the media world. He's not used to cameras and lights and action and all that. So every time something like that happens, I get insecure. And I worry that that's something that's going to drive him away. And that's when at the end of the night, we have a talk, like we have a heart to heart. And I'm like, did that bother you? I'm like, is that hard on you? We have great communication. And he's like, no, I understand that that's what comes with being with you. And I understand that if I'm going to be a part of your life, that's the norm for you. And I love you that much to go through with this relationship and do that for you. I would say that Ken is my first love because that's when I honestly felt like a mature love. It wasn't based off of a fantasy. It was actually based on a connection that two people has for each other. And it wasn't something that I was in love with the idea of love. Like, I understand it's not going to be a fairy tale every day, but taking the good with bad is part of life, and that's worth it. Like, having that special love is worth it. And if you don't go through the hard times, then how could you appreciate the good times? The decision to change my hair color and get rhinoplasty. Rhinoplasty is something that I've been wanting to have since I was 16. It was always a feature on my face that was cause for a low self-esteem issue. So that was a choice that I got to make as a free woman, whereas it's something that I would have never dreamed of being able to do back living with my mom or in prison. And then getting my hair to, the style I want and tweak on it to where I got highlights and it wasn't quite as light as I wanted to go, so I went lighter. It's those little changes that I'm making to myself that I feel are gradual steps into being the person that I want to be and fits my personality. I feel good about it. The instinctual need of being like, okay, well, I want to do this. Wait a minute. I don't have to ask anybody. I can just do it myself. and I don't get in trouble for it. I don't get in trouble for expressing my personality. My mom didn't want me to wear makeup. She felt like that was too grown up and associated that with, things that I wasn't allowed to do. So now coming out, hit up Sephora, hit up Ulta Beauty, and spent a lot of money there. And I'm like doing all these makeup tutorials in the bathroom mirror and experimenting with makeup. So that's something that I'm doing it. I have to always constantly give myself a little bit of grace. I always have to remind myself that, yes, I'm a victim of Munchausen by proxy, but I'm also a survivor of it. Like, I don't like the term victim. I have to remind myself that I am like a little ball of everything. Like, what I've been through, to say I'm either a victim or the perpetrator and categorize me in either one, you're forgetting the gray area that is the larger scope of my story. There is much more layers to me than just those two things. So I don't like being labeled as either. I like being just Gypsy. So reminding myself that I'm just Gypsy on a daily is important. I'm a normal person and I didn't grow up in Hollywood. that isn't my life. So watching it all unfold on TV and watching the interviews, I have to realize it's not my everyday life, and I want other people to realize that's not my everyday life. I go back home and I go clean up dog poop from, our 2 dogs, and I mow the lawn like the next person. So I have a real life, and then there's that public life, and knowing how to manage the two is important. When I came out of prison, I didn't have any expectations on myself, and I didn't think anybody had any expectations of me. So now getting a little bit more clarity as to I do have a fan base, and it is a little bit of a younger fan base. I do want to keep in mind that my actions are being viewed by a lot of people. So with that being said, like, I understand that my fame, infamy, whatever you want to call it, stemmed from a crime, and I want people to know that that was not okay. I'm not excusing my actions from 8.5 years ago. What I do want Gen Z to take away from who I am today is a hope for a better future. To know that just because you came from a bad situation, that doesn't label you, and that's not where you have to stay. There is personal growth in that. So if there are fans out there watching, that's what I want to be known for. I know from personal experience that finding your voice is a road, it's a journey, and it's a path that is not always clear. Sometimes that path could be a little foggy, and you're confused of what the right thing to do is. And especially emotions are linked to it. So I would say your voice is more powerful than you could ever imagine. And your voice is something that someone can't take from you. They can beat you down, they can talk all kinds of negative to you, but the one thing that you have is your voice, and how you use that is up to you.